Thank you, Madam Chair. I am pleased to bring House Bill 191288 to you today. What I'd like to do is read a letter from Dominique Mallard. She's 27 years old, and she is a core organizer for Project Foster Power, which is an agency group for young people ages 15 to 25 who have previously experienced or are currently in the foster system. Using youth organizing principles, this group aims to harness power in numbers to create change through organizing, advocacy, education, and leadership development. Project Foster Power is the Colorado partner of Foster Youth in Action, a national network of 23 independent groups from across the country who believe in the power of foster youth and their voice. Today, I'd like to read her personal story. She supports this bill because she is a foster youth who has waited all of her life for a bill like this. Siblings are each other's first friends in life, first instructor, first protector. Youth siblings understand each other. You can always vent to them. Your siblings are going to be with you when your parents are gone. I remember my mother used to always tell me, always stay close to your siblings, don't fight, and be there for each other, because when I'm gone, you will only have each other. By that, she meant that my sibling would be the ones that I will need the most and the ones I can depend on when things go wrong. Do you remember your first love, that feeling you had? A person whom you cared so much for, and one day just up and walked out of your life? Do you remember that feeling of heartbreak? Well, that's how I felt and still feel today. My brother didn't just walk out of my life, he was taken from my life. And I had no say because I was a minor, and I no longer had any say when it came to my baby brother. I felt because we were in foster care, we were no longer considered siblings. We were just considered foster kids. We were already taken from our families and now from each other. Well, I must say that did more damage to me than the abuse and neglect that brought us to social services in the first place. I've been looking out for my little brother since the day he was born. I fed my brother. I took him everywhere I went. Mom was always at work, making sure our home was okay. My father was running the streets, doing God knows what. I taught my brother how to spell his name, what our dad's phone number was, and his ABCs. When my dad would beat on my mother, I'd take my brother out in the hallway of our apartment. I did my best to keep him occupied so he wouldn't hear what was going on. I'd play a game with him, and if the fighting got too loud, I would put headphones on his ears so he wouldn't hear the horror inside. I used to tell him that it's going to be okay, and as soon as I turned 18, we're going to get away from Dad and we will have a good life. I was his big sister, and I loved him, and he loved me. We went through hell and back for each other. So going into foster care had me 10 times more worried about my baby brother because we didn't know these people. As kids, they teach you stranger danger. Every time our visits would have to come to an end, my brother would always throw the biggest temper tantrum he ever had. He would kick and yell, saying, "No, I want to stay with my sister." I'd always calm him down by hugging him and telling him I loved him and that I needed him to be my Spider-Man, because Spider-Man doesn't do stuff like this. Superheroes don't cry. I did see him the next week. He'd always say, "Okay, sister," and he would give me the most loving hug. Next week never came for us. Next week has seemed to have vanished. That next week was my birthday. I turned 18. My exact birthday is when I found out from my little brother's foster mom that he had been adopted and removed from her home, and she was sorry that they didn't tell me about this. Hello, adulthood. I asked my caseworker why they failed to tell me their plans regarding my little brother. She told me that they didn't tell me because they were worried on how I would respond, and they didn't want me to do anything crazy to myself. I wasn't even sure what adoption meant in the first place. I just knew that meant you get new parents and the stuff you see on TV. I ignored all that and asked her when I could see him. She told me that that's not possible, that it was a closed adoption and the family has requested that he have no contact with his prior family. It was as if I was in the middle of an ocean with big waves coming at me, hitting me left and right, dragging me under the water, making it hard for me to grasp for air. I was emotionally unstable. I could not believe what I wasn't told about my little brother. Not only was I hurt about the fact my brother had been adopted, I could no longer see him. I was livid at the fact that my caseworker hadn't discussed this with me ahead of time, so I could work on my goodbye and advocate on why I felt I should have some type of contact with him. Basically, I was told, because we weren't with our family anymore, that we were no longer brother and sister. I couldn't even see him one last time. I couldn't hug him, kiss his forehead, and tell him that I loved him and that everything would be okay. That I needed him to be my Spider-Man because superheroes don't cry. I never thought that the time I hugged him was the last. You know, I've been waiting for that next week for 10 years. I don't know how much longer I will be able to continue waiting. It's like a missing person that can't be found. I thought that Spider-Man would have came and been my hero now. I'm asking and need all of you to be my superhero for our foster youth. Save them from feeling how I feel today. I'm begging you to vote yes on this bill.